Hi, it's John Cunningham.
And Andrew Lutze.
And welcome to this month's edition of Insights, our deep dive into the property market in the Northern Beaches for October 2020. So Andrew, what's going on out there? It's been an interesting month.
It has been, yeah. It's been fascinating. Just the change of seasons. We're starting to see more buyers come out into the market as well, and I think that renewed sense of confidence, because we have got a Christmas deadline looming. It's putting a bit more urgency, not only on the buyers but also on the sellers to get moving. So, with the whole choppy waters that have been 2020 with a pandemic and lots of speculation about where the market's going, we're starting to see those fundamentals of supply and demand really reign home, particularly in the last 30 days. And I think that will become acutely aware to people the more they miss out on property, and we're having more of those conversations now with buyers more than ever.
It's probably the first thing that people notice when they're in the marketplace and they start seeing properties move quickly, particularly those on the quiet. And they go, oh, what are in the paper is not necessarily what's happening in the marketplace. Exactly.
Yep. I had a buyer just the other day actually us saying, oh, do you still think the property market's going to fall 30% next year?
Right.
So it's fascinating seeing the different commentary and different views that people have had depending on where they're getting that source of information. But one thing that is abundantly clear is that numbers for open houses are probably coming into the all-time high for the whole year. And also the rate at which people are buying property and the time at which the properties are staying on the market is reduced significantly. So that's putting an underlying pressure on, if you are looking for a property, you need to act quickly.
Yeah. I've noticed that our days on market on average is down to 28 days, and we're bringing on 40 odd properties a month. We're selling 40 odd properties a month. It's just moving. Everything tends to be moving, and it's quite different to the rest of Sydney, isn't it? Because we're seeing our mortgage stress levels extremely low on the Northern Beaches. We're seeing unemployment extremely still low on the Northern Beaches. We're a bit of a sweet spot, aren't we, out here?
Yeah, the Northern Beaches, particularly something closer to the coastline, has always been a lifestyle market. So when people pick up the phone, or let's say they have an aspiration to move, whether they're in a metro area and they're coming to the beaches, or they are from a regional part of Sydney, or greater parts of Sydney, the fundamental thing that we tend to see is that people have an aspiration to live by the coast.
Yeah.
So the closer you can get to the water, the proximity to the water is going to drive that pricing as well. And I think now more than ever, we're going to find that buyers have more time at home. They're going to place more importance on what their lifestyle means to them, and the commute to work has a big factor in that as well. So the Northern Beaches has been a bit immune, or a bit of a bubble, if you like, to the greater parts of Sydney, because it's not the same market conversation we're having with people live in Parramatta, or live even in the inner west, or even in the eastern suburbs for that matter. And we have a big migration of people who come across from the eastern suburbs to the Northern Beaches purely from a lifestyle point of view. And you think, why is that? They've got very similar attributes, but we're about 25% still less in value.
It's interesting, isn't it? When you look at that also from a rental perspective, we're seeing the same thing happen. We're seeing our days on market on average for rentals down to 14 days. We're seeing people moving from one-bedroom apartments to two-bedroom apartments, seeing them move from smaller two-bedroom apartments to bigger two-bedroom apartments, or moving from apartments to houses. So it seems to me that space has been valued just as much as location now.
Yes, yeah, I think that's whilst people used to say, I'd love to live in that street, I'd love to live in that suburb, I think the scarcity of property available has enabled them to take a closer look at the actual property itself and saying, well, does this home fit the brief, or can I improve on it? And that's really been the fascinating thing, and it'd be good to dive into average price ranges soon. Yeah. Because I think we're seeing more people who are staying at home are improving their homes, and that's putting, again, a different bit of a skew on that average sale price.
It really has, hasn't it? We're about to launch our Insights report for 2020 in the next couple of weeks. And one of the big findings in that is that the median price on the Northern Beaches in our area of operation, which is from bridge to bridge, it's the Spit Bridge to the Narrabeen Bridge, is our primary area of operation. We've seen the median price for a house increase 82% over the last 10 years, but an apartment has been 67%. Can you explain why that would be?
Yeah, it's a fascinating statistic, because a lot of people who are moving into their homes, we're starting to see more people who are looking at that granny flat option. We're also seeing more people with generational living, and now this year it's the home office.
Yeah.
So people who don't have that space, they're trying to create that space, and that's partly driven by the fact that moving is so damn expensive. To pay the stamp duty of what it costs to make that decision, you can't flip houses like you can in New Zealand, for example, because the taxes here are so high.
Yeah.
So we're seeing more people who are saying, if I can't stay in the area, if I can't create what I want here in my house, then yes, I'll move. But if I can stay, and I'll give you an example. Take, for example, a little cottage in Freshwater for $2 million.
Yep.
That price, the average sale price of $2 million for that cottage, that person comes along and knocks it down. They spend $1.5 million putting a new home on it, and now the average sale price for that type of property is $3.5.
Or could be $4.
Or could be $4 million.
That's
exactly,
right.
because there's so little of it available, and then that healthy demand just drives that pricing. So I think we're going to see more and more of that type of property.
So the statistics on that then skew the whole data, don't they?
Correct.
Because we're seeing so much more property improvement, renovations, extensions and so on, skewing the median price of houses compared to apartments. And therefore you could look at it and say, oh, I'm better investing in houses. Which leads to another interesting question. When we look at the what we call A, B and C grade properties in the marketplace, it's always a tricky one, isn't it? To say, where do I invest my money? I can get everything I want in this property, but it's a B or C grade property. It might be the best location. Is it going to give me the best long-term possibilities?
Yeah.
But at least I can get into the marketplace. What's your thinking on that sort of approach?
Yeah, and a lot of owners ring up and say, well, Andrew, why hasn't my property grown like the 82% in 10 years, like everyone else? And there's some fundamental things you can't change in most properties. And I talk a lot about this at open houses with people who are just inquiring about the market, but also to homeowners. And we come around appraise and we look at things like topography of land. The more level the land is, the broader demographic of buyers you're going to appeal to as well. The closer proximity you are to the water, that's going to increase value, of course. But the parking element, very, very important. A car space versus a lock-up garage versus a carport. There are fundamental differences, and the value increases significantly based on those things. Having an aspect, a north-facing backyard, that will have a very big difference. And these extra qualities, you put them all into a little bucket, and you say, well, if it has all those things, great, that's an A-grade property. If it has 2 or 3 of these things that are a challenge, the more steeper the terrain, obviously the limited buyer pool who's going to appeal for that. Now, it doesn't mean that property won't sell well, and in fact most of the time they do sell very well.
There's that price point, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's just a suitability issue. Now, for most people, suitability in a property, I love it, Andrew, but it doesn't quite have this, or it doesn't have quite a level access, or my family can't play in the backyard here. Those suitability issues don't become a problem when the price is excellent.
Correct.
And that's what we call a fire sale, unfortunately, sometimes. When the price becomes so attractive that people will overlook some of those fundamental important things that they like and what they need in a property just because it's actually affordable.
I suppose that's reflected into the response rates we're getting in the marketplace. We can see one property, its first launch to weekend, 52 people come through, 52 groups of people, and then another one, 5.
That's right.
And it's either reflected in what it offers or where it's priced at.
It's priced.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a matter of making sure you understand that in the marketplace. So anything else that you're noticing out there at the moment that would be interested for the viewers?
Yeah, I think with all people on people's minds is price. What's the market doing? What's going to happen? Is the market on trend, either up or down, or is it actually plateauing? One thing that we're experiencing on the ground at the moment is that this 2017 number, what happened in the peak of the market back in 2017, is really bubbling to the surface again. You could liken that almost to pre-COVID pricing, what we experienced at the start of this year.
Yes.
Market was on a trend, it was on a bit of a run, and again, scarcity of stock available. So people were paying over and above what was felt to be fair market. In actual fact, it probably was where the market was at. So at the moment, we're seeing prices, particularly for housing as well, and I think that's reflective in that 82% growth pattern in 10 years.
Yep.
That type of property, rather than apartment living, has been really the big success, and we're probably, if not better than 2017 pricing at the moment. So anyone out there who's looking at things that have sold back in 2017, they're saying, well, that was the peak of the market. That's not the case.
Especially for the A grade.
Especially for the A grade,
Yeah.
especially for lifestyle
High
markets,
demand.
proximity to the water, 5 minutes walking distance to the beach, all the way along the peninsula. We're seeing really good appetite for that type of property as well, and I don't think that's going to change for any time to come. Now, the same can be said for apartments as well, but it needs to be obviously of a quality standard, and the
Presentation's
sizing.
becoming a massive thing in there, isn't it?
Presentation coupled with the sizing of an
Yeah.
apartment is so critical. If you get that presentation wrong in a small apartment, it will discount the value significantly, and that's
absolutely.
upward of 10% in value.
Yeah.
So that could be in some apartments, take $1 million price range, $100,000 off the ticket. And that is a significant amount of money, particularly when you're looking at upsizing or downsizing to that part of the market.
And looking forward, we've seen a lot more stock hit the market in the last week,
Yes.
particularly from Cunningham's perspective. What's the longevity of that? We've only got about 8 selling weeks left in between Christmas. Do you see that stock's going to continue, and what's your prognosis for the new year?
Yeah, and I think that the only disclaimer to that is that was always going to happen after the long weekend. We always knew that campaigns...
Traditional, isn't it?
Traditionally, yeah. We always see that spring selling really kicks off. We have a small window of opportunity from really mid-August to end of September. There's a small breather over the long weekend, and then the next wave of stock comes. Now, I do think that there will be another big growth pattern of stock coming through, but only for the next 4 weeks.
Okay.
And then I think you'll start to see those dribs and drabs and circumstantial properties come to the market, whether they bought something or the timing's just right for the family to make a move or whatever it might be. But I don't see that there's going to be leaps and bounds, double the amount of stock coming on the market in the next 4 weeks.
Okay.
I think it'll be probably steady as she goes. But next year is going to be the real test. That's
it's still a bit of a crystal ball, that one, isn't it?
We're
positive.
Yeah.
We're positive because the signs are all there, and I think therefore you're not saying the Northern Beach is immune from the COVID effects and particularly the long-term economic impacts, but this desire to live here is just continuing to grow and grow and grow. So let's see where we go from here.
Absolutely.
But thanks for your time today, Andrew. Really
Sure.
appreciate those great insights. With you guys selling over 100 properties a year, it's important, and Cunningham's in 433 properties in our last 12 months. I think it's really critical that we get our viewers to understand our reach in the marketplace and the dynamics that we understand the marketplace that has an impact on them. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks again.
See you soon.